Children, give me a hug. All right, y'all. We give praise, esteem, and honor to the Most High Yah by way of Yahushua HaMashiach this day, John 5:39. Abigail that does not belong to Abigail. Abigail Dion. Search the scriptures, for in them you think you have eternal life, and they are they which testify of me. And you will not come to me that you might have life. I receive not honor from men, but I know you, that you have not the love of Elohim in you. I come in my Abba's name, and you receive me not. If another shall come in his own name, him you will receive. How can you believe which receive honor one of another, and seek not the honor that come from Elohim only? Do not think that I will accuse you to Abba. There is one that accuse you, even Moses, in whom ye trust. For had you believed Moses, you would have believed me, for he wrote of me. But if you believe not his writings, how shall you believe my words? So, on Wednesday, we discussed how the high priest has to take off his garment when he comes out of the Kadesh place, and how he has to put it off and put on his own clothes and make an offering for himself after he's made an offering for the people. And we looked at that in the framework of this was because if you saw it, you would know that Yahushua was high priest in Shamahim before he was manifested on earth. You should know this because he told Moses to make the tabernacle after the pattern of what he was shown in the mount. Everything that is made in Shamahim, it also tell you that in Hebrews chapters 9, of which we read, everything in Shamahim, or everything that was made with the tabernacle and all the things with the priestly garments and all of those detailed instructions that Yahuwah gave in the book of Exodus, is a detailed pattern of everything in heaven. Got to understand that. You got to know that. So Yahushua was high priest in heaven. He put off his garments when he came out to make a sacrifice for himself, or to make the sacrifice of himself when he became a man. When he went back into Shamahim, that's when he went back in that place to make intercession for the people to enter into that Kadesh place and do it. So therefore he put those garments back on. This is why Daniel sees him in the 10th chapter with those high priest garments on. This is why John sees them with it on, because Daniel seen him before he came, and John seen him after he came and went back. So let's go to Exodus 28:1 now. Exodus 28:1. Take thou unto thee Aaron thy brother and his sons with him from among the children of Yasharal, that they may minister unto me in the priest's office, even Aaron, Nadab, Abihu, Eleazar, Ithamar, Aaron's sons. And thou shalt make Kadesh garments for Aaron thy brother for esteem and for beauty. So the first thing that we gonna look at is garment. Unbelievable. Good grief. Wrong app. Give me a second. I mean, I already got the word spelled out and ready for y'all, but I'm doing that for a reason. We're going to look at specific things in this here. This is a Kadesh garment. Of course, you should know that, and I just really want to read y'all the definition. The word is begad. It can also mean treachery or deceit, but it's garment or clothing. It also means raiment, apparel, cloth, wardrobe, rags. And you know, so I just want y'all to know that is this same word is used for raiment. So just keep that in mind. See, I was supposed to hit y'all with the Urim and the Thummim. That's what I was supposed to do, and that just hit my mind. But I'll work it in as necessary. The characters for Begad are this. You have the Bat, you have the Gamal, and you have the Dalet. The Bat, Gamal, and the Dalet is how we would spell this particular word. So when we look at this is pertaining to a Kadesh garment, and we look at Bat, and we see it's a house, a tent, a floor, a family to be in or with, or son. We very well may choose son for this particular word matter. When we look at Gamal, we have to gather or to walk or to carry or to lift or pride or messenger. And we could use lift or we could use messenger. For this one here, we're going to use messenger. I think messenger would be a lot more sufficient, even though lift could be used because he has to bear, because of the word Nasah, which is to lift up and exalt, of him having to bear the iniquities of the children of Yasharal. And then we have Dalit, of course, and it takes us to the door or the entrance or to move back and forth or to hang or to dangle. So we just turn around and we'll look at this garment is worn by the son who is the messenger to bring you into the entrance. Why is that important when we look at that? Pause. Malachi chapter 2 and verse 6. And this Malachi 2 is really the reason that I'm choosing this particular direction. If anybody sees something, a message that they could see, by all means share it at your leisure. But right now we're going to go to Malachi 2 and 6. I'm actually going to go to Malachi 2 and 1. We just started verse 1. Malachi 2 and 1. Give me a second, man. All right. And now, O ye priests, this commandment is for you. And if you will not hear, and if you will not lay it to heart to give esteem unto my name, saith Yahuwah of hosts, I will send a curse upon you, and I will curse your blessings. Yea, I have cursed them already, because you do not lay it to heart. Now, I just want y'all to pause and think about this. Now, of course, he's warning the priesthood, clearly. But I want you to think about what he just said. That he'll send a curse upon you if you don't lay his words to heart. If you will not hear, and if you will not lay it to heart to give esteem to his name. Now, I want you to pause for a moment, and let's swing over here to Revelation 14. Now, of course, yeah, he's talking to the priests, and we could take it, if we wanted so chose, to say how he made us kings and priests according to his blood of Yahusha. But this is Revelation 14 and 6. But he's literally talking directly to the priests. But I just want to take it to this point right here, this Malachim, what this Malachim is about to express in Revelation 14. That if you don't lay this man words to heart, and if you won't hear, then he's going to curse you. Remember what he said, entering into everlasting fire, he cursed. Hold on, y'all. Okay. And I saw another Malachim fly in the midst of Shamahim, having the everlasting Besor to preach unto them that dwell on the earth, to every nation and kindred and tongue and people, saying with a loud voice, fear Elohim and give esteem to him, for the hour of his judgment is come, and worship him that hath made Shamahim and the Arats and the sea and the fountains of waters. And followed another Malachim, saying, Babylon is fallen, that great city, because she made all nations drink of the wine of the wrath of her fornication. And the third Malachim followed them, saying with a loud voice, if any man worship the beast in his image, and receive his mark in his forehead or in his hand, the same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of Elohim, which is poured out without mixture into the cup of his indignation. He shall be forever tormented. He shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the Kadesh Malachim, and in the presence of the Lamb. And the smoke of their torment ascend up ever and ever, and they have no rest day nor night. Hold on. Yeah. And he said, they have no rest day or night who worship the beast in his image, and whosoever received the mark of his name. Does anybody, come back to Malachi chapter 2. Does anybody remember what's going to occur with that image of the beast?
He's going to make the image speak.
And what else?
Make an idol.
He gonna make the image speak, and what else he gonna do?
He gonna give it life.
He gonna make it alive. It's gonna be alive. It's gonna be alive. Not only, but just like he said, it's going to talk, but he's going to put breath in it. And according to what we read last week, why is that important? If he's going to put life and words into this image.
He's gonna defeat the people and they're gonna think it's all of him.
They're going to deceive. That's what we read, right? What did he say the idol couldn't do? Idol don't got no breath.
The idol couldn't breathe.
Idol can't talk. So remember, right? Because the reason why this is important, why I'm referencing that, because if you would have heard and you would have laid to heart what he said, then that blessing, that curse wouldn't come upon you, because you wouldn't be worshiping that image. Now, I'm not going to say witchcraft, because witchcraft by definition is rebellion. A witch can't bring something to life. You know what I'm saying? Witch don't have that type of power. Basically, Yah is going to allow the serpent to have that type of power to make something come alive. Because Yahuwah is the only person that can give life. The only person that has that power. Because he is life. Let's see that, why I said that. John chapter 5. Yeah, Yahuwah the only one can give life. So he's going to give the adversary, he's going to give the devil the ability to allow something to have life in it. Praise the Lamb. That's how I'm going to do it. Let's look at this. Before we look at John 5, go to Revelation 13, then John 5, and then Job 33. Revelation 13 and 14. And he deceived them that dwell on the earth by means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image to the beast, which had a wound by a sword and did live. And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, and that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. Notice that he said he had power to give life unto the image of the beast. Well, let's swing back over here to verse 3 of this same chapter, and let's see who gave him the power. And I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast. And they worshipped the serpent which gave power unto the beast. And they worshipped the beast, saying, who is like unto the beast, and who is able to make war with him. So now we see who is given the beast, and the false prophet for that matter, their power. It is the devil. Now let's look at John chapter 5. Because he said he's got power to give life unto the beast. John 5 and 25. Actually, John 5 and 20. He said, for the Father loved the Son, and show him all things that himself do. And he will show him greater works than these, that ye may marvel. For as the Father raised up the dead and quickened them, even so the Son quicken whom he will. Now drop down to verse 25. Say, truly, truly, I say unto you, the hour is coming, and now is, when the dead shall hear the voice of the Son of Elohim, and they that hear shall live. See now again how this is going back to what we're looking at in Malachi 2. If you will not hear, you will not lay at the heart to give esteem to his name, he is going to damn you. He's going to curse you. But if you hear, you will live. This is why he say faith come by hearing, and hearing come by the word. Because if you hear, then you will obey. Because you hear it because you believe. Because the just live by their faith. See, niggas live by their outward show of righteousness, and not through the outward manifestation of faith, which begins inward. See, righteousness is an inside out type of thing, and we try to outside in it. See, niggas feel like as long as they do certain things, like we read Matthew 7 Wednesday, niggas feel like if I preach the word or I do good works, that's going to spare me for the wickedness I got in my heart and the things that I do when nobody's looking. You know the most, let's just keep it hot, right? The book tell you, right, don't bear no grudge against your neighbor. Things of this nature. It's people who are going to, and I'm mentioning this because I seen the sister was talking about this here the other day. You got people who offend people who they ought to apologize to, who wait till the Day of Atonement to seek atonement from somebody who they wrong, even though the book don't say nothing about seeking no atonement from nobody on no Day of Atonement. Day of Atonement ain't got nothing to do with you seeking to reconcile with nobody. You know what I'm saying? But you got people who are going to go to hell because they offended people and they did not seek to straighten that with that person before they left this earth. I'm talking about they wrong, they know they did somebody wrong, and they did not seek to fix that. Pretty much all of us, whether word or no word, has somebody done something to you of which they did not apologize to you about it. So the reason I mention that, because if somebody wronged you and they've acknowledged that they wrong, or you know that they wrong, and they have not sought to reconcile that matter with you, that means really in their heart they don't believe they're wrong. So it means you carrying iniquity in your heart. Something just that simple can damage your soul. Because he told you if you got out with your brother to go straight in that. So if you done something and it's acknowledged that you've done something and you wrong and you didn't seek the see, as long as the person who was wrong has forgiven you and let that go, it doesn't matter if that person comes to apologize to you or not. But the person who did it and has not sought to reconcile that matter, or to even at the bare minimum acknowledge their error, they very well may be carrying that in their heart, that they may have not felt that they were wrong and they were justified in their deeds. You know what I'm saying? And this is just springing off a conversation that this lady was talking about, and she wasn't lying. Because niggas get ready for these feast days and they buy brand new outfits and they want to get ready to eat and they do this, that, and the third, and you niggas wicked. That's why he say them feast days you got going on, I don't accept them, I don't want them. They an offense to me. Because they not done in righteousness and in truth. They done in wickedness and deceit and hypocrisy. Like the word literally talks about that. Yahuwah literally talked about, I don't care nothing for your feast days. He said, I abhor them. They weary to my soul. Because our hearts don't be right. This man say you want to make sure that you stand. Well, Paul say I stand before without offense to Elohim and man. And that's how you want to live your life. That you have not by your actions directly offended someone. Not a nigga being offended by something because they just didn't like it. Because see, now we live in a generation of very, very soft men. You know what I'm saying? Very, very feminine and emotional men who are offended by the slightest thing of which they have no business being offended by if they call themselves a man. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what it is. Niggas saying they putting stuff in the water. Niggas say they putting stuff in the food. Some people say it's the chemtrails. I don't know. I really think it's just as simple as niggas raising niggas soft, and that's it. And then some niggas might just be naturally soft. But this is a very emotionally weak generation of people. Very emotionally weak. And I can see why that's happened because of how society crafts everything. Nobody wants to be offended. Everybody is very selfish. Everybody's really more concerned about themselves and their happiness and how they feel. And this, that, and the third, that the slightest thing that people do offends them. I don't think 99.9% of our people could even dealt with the prophets when they were alive and walking the earth. I know these niggas would have killed them. I know they would have killed them. See, it's one thing to read stories about people. Yeah, that's my ancestor. It's another thing when he talking to you. And he talking about you. And what you doing. I don't think a lot of people be that happy to see those men like they claim they are. Nevertheless. Verse 26 says, for as the Father have life in himself, so have he given the Son to have life in himself. So Yah has life in himself. So he the only one that can have the authority and power to give life. And we're going to look and see how Yah allows Satan, is going to allow him to do this and give him the power to do so. So, what did I mention? Job 33. Does anybody know where Yah ever gave Satan any power at all? Job 33 and 3, where we going? Somebody got to mute their phone because you got that echo going. What you were finna say? Oh, we're gonna have to wait because somebody, I can't, it ain't even no sense of you trying because that echo. Got it messed up because I don't know whose phone that is. And yeah. I gotta do it just that it might be your phone, that. I'm gonna have to mute it.
My phone on mute.
Your phone on mute? Then whose phone that is?
I don't know.
That might be your son's phone, man. He might have it muted. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, but I think he gave he could touch everything that Job had, but don't touch Job because he had a hedge around him.
So guess what? So that means y'all gave Satan the power to do all that, didn't it?
Mm-hmm.
That was correct. That's what we were looking for, because that's the only place you're gonna find that at. So Satan can only Satan doesn't. Gotta remember, right? He said that the devil doesn't have. Yahushua say the devil don't have something in him, and what is that he don't have? In John 8:44, Yahushua say the devil doesn't have something inside of him. And what is it that he doesn't have?
Truth.
The truth. So he doesn't have the firmness, the faithfulness. He doesn't have the amat in him. So if he doesn't have the amat in him, then guess what that means he don't have in him?
Ruach.
The ruach. And if he ain't got the ruach in him, what he don't have? Life. So that means that y'all the only one giving him the power to do that. Why would y'all? Now the next question somebody asked would be, what type of God would give his enemy that type of power? Who knows scripturally why y'all would give Satan that type of power to do that? I mentioned it last week too. But you should know it if you know the law. Because a person I talked to about last week, they couldn't remember the exact place, but that's what came to their mind. And when I told them, they said, yeah, that's what it was. Well, let's look at it. We'll get to it. Job 33:1. Wherefore, Job, I pray thee, hear my speeches and hearken to all my words. Behold, I have opened my mouth, my tongue have spoken in my mouth. My words shall be of the uprightness of my heart, my lips shall utter knowledge clearly. The Ruach of Elohim have made me, and the breath of the Almighty have given me life. So the only person who got breath to give life is Yahuwah. Now we already mentioned in Job, he gave the adversary power to kill Job's whole family and to touch everything he had, and to hit him with boils and all of that, right? But the book say Yah's the only one got life in him. He the only one got life in him, and now the adversary got power to give an image life, so people might worship it. Why is that important? Deuteronomy 13. Why would y'all do this? This is why y'all gonna do it. Same way that false prophet working wonder, because this is what you're supposed to know. Because Deuteronomy 13 is about a warning about don't you fall into idolatry now. Don't fall into idolatry. Idolatry gets you messed up and clapped up. You don't want nothing to do with that. Where we at? Deuteronomy 13. Well, verse 1. If there arise among you a prophet or a dreamer of dreams, and give thee a sign or a wonder, and the sign or wonder come to pass whereof he spake unto thee, saying, let us go after other gods which thou hast not known, and let us serve them. Will we not be going after another god if we were worshiping the beast in his image? Is that this false prophet asking you to go after another god of which you have not known? Is that yes or no?
Yes, sir.
All right then. He said, thou shalt not hearken unto the words of that prophet or that dreamer of dreams. For Yahuwah your Elohim prove you to know whether you love Yahuwah your Elohim with all your heart and with all your soul. And you shall walk after Yahuwah your Elohim and fear him and keep his commandments and obey his voice. You see the difference? You see why he's causing that image to speak? Because he wants you to obey his voice. He wants you to think he Yahuwah and follow him. He's trying to show he got life in himself. He's trying to get you to obey his voice. He's trying to get you to worship him. And you shall serve him and cleave unto him. And listen what he said. And that prophet of that dreamer of dreams shall be put to death, because he has spoken to turn you away from Yahuwah your Elohim, which brought you out of the land of Mizraim, and redeemed you out of the house of bondage, to thrust thee out of the way which Yahuwah thy Elohim commanded thee to walk in, so thou shalt put the evil away from the midst of thee. You notice how he say they trying to thrust you out the way? He trying to thrust you out of Yahusha. That's why you see the beast getting and the false prophet getting thrown in that lake that burned with fire and brimstone alive. Because they got it. But that is to prove you. See, let's look at the word for prove. Come on back to Malachi chapter 2. Let's just look at the word for prove real quick. See, y'all. Oh, never mind. It's just not going to work for us today. You know, y'all going to prove y'all. Oh, I'm tripping. I'm thinking Malachi, and that ain't what I needed. Y'all got to prove you out. Some people going to go for it. Some people going to go for it. I hope y'all ain't one of them people who going to go for it. The word for prove you is nakah. It is the test. It is the try. It is to put to the proof or to the test. Got to put you to the test, man. Got to put you to the test. Nevertheless, because I got to tighten up. Malachi chapter 2, because I'm supposed to do Urim and Thummim, and that's what I'm finna do. I'm supposed to do the other stuff tomorrow. Malachi chapter 2. We in verse 1. I just deal with that garment, and then we're going to hit this Urim and Thummim, because I'm going out of order from what I had already stated what I was going to do. So verse 1 to verse 2 again. If you would not hear, and if you would not lay it to heart to give esteem unto my name, saith Yahuwah of hosts, I will even send a curse upon you, and I will curse your blessings. Yea, I have cursed them already, because you do not lay it to heart. Behold, I will corrupt your seed and spread dung upon your faces, even the dung of your solemn feasts, and one shall take you away with it. And you shall know that I have sent this commandment unto you, that my covenant might be with Levi, saith Yahuwah of hosts. My covenant was with him of life and shalom, and I gave them to him for the fear wherewith he feared me, and was afraid before my name. The law of truth was in his mouth, and iniquity was not found in his lips. And he walked with me in shalom and equity, and did turn many away from iniquity. For the priest's lips should keep knowledge, and they should seek the Torah at his mouth. For he is the messenger of Yahuwah of hosts. Now he's talking to the priest. This is why I chose messenger when we were looking at what we were looking at with the characters for beged, for this garment. Because that garment is symbolic of the Son, who is his messenger, who will cause you to enter into the door or the entrance. Because the high priest is the messenger. What message is he bringing? He bringing you the word of Yahuwah with this garment on. Why is that important? That is what we call a segue. Drop down to verse 29 in Exodus 28. Because we're going to go to exactly what I know that I'm supposed to do, because I'm going out of order. Trying to work it all the way down. We finna hit this Urim and Thummim right now. We will start at about, we'll start at about verse 26, because I can work another word that we got in the play and kill it. So just keep that in mind. That was the word for garment, beged. Let me get the other stuff in line for the next thing we gotta do. There we go. So it says this, and thou shalt make 2 rings of gold. Thou shalt put them upon the 2 ends of the breastplate. Remember, that's the koshan. We talked about that on Wednesday. And the border thereof, which is in the side of the ephod inward. So now we get to ephod. And we're going to talk about that garment. Now keep in mind that we talking about the garment or the covering of the priest and the things that are pertained in his garment. Now if you notice here, the ephod is a priestly garment. It's a little shoulder cape or mantle or outer garment. The high priest garment is a little bit more costly than the regular priest's garment. You know, it's got gold, purple, and scarlet. It's made of linen. It's got those shoulder pieces and that breastplate, and along with having gemstones and gold on it. The characters that we have for the ephod this evening is the ayin, the pei, the u, and the dalet. Again, that is the ayin, the pei, the u, and the dalet. So when we look at that and we begin to examine and see what direction we would go with that, when we look at the ayin and we get to know or converging in the soul or the word or the experience, well, it's the word converging in the soul. That's what we're going to choose. We're going to choose the word converging in the soul. Because when we turn around and we look at pay and we have the commands or to the speak or the opening or the mouth, we see that it is the mouth or the commands of Yahuwah that causes to converge in the soul. When we take that and we put that with the u, we see that that will cause us to be joined together and secured to the door with this garment or this ephod on or this mantle on that you place upon yourself that the high priest has to wear. So I can look at it. It's a word that will converge in your soul by the mouth of Elohim. Hello, which joins you together to the door. That's what we don't look at and use when we think about ephod. So we already looked at that the God of the garment is the son who is the messenger that causes you to enter into the entrance. This is what his priestly garment is about. Making this garment for him. Why is that important when we look at the son as the messenger that causes you to enter into the entrance of the door? Because we know that Jacob put on the garment of his older brother, so to speak, so that he could enter in to receive the blessing. But let's go to Romans 13 real quickly. And we're just going to take a quick hit and look at that. Because when we're looking at that garment, then we're looking at that we need to put on Yahusha. Because Job 29 tells us about that. I put on righteousness as a robe. And we're going to look at the word robe, Yah willing. But that's what you need to turn around and you have to look at if you're going to put these garments on. Because the book of Ecclesiastes tell you to let your garment always be white. And we're going to discuss that as well. So I don't want to get ahead of myself. But, dang, I should have drunk all that water. What did I just mention? Romans 13. Romans 13 and what? We'll pick it up at verse 8. He say, owe no man anything but to love one another, for he that love another hath fulfilled Torah. So, okay, we know that that's what the master said in Matthew, right? And we look at that. He said, greater love have no man than this, that a man lay his life down for his friends. So he told you that love is fulfilling the Torah. The first thing that we look, when we were looking at the beast giving power, or the serpent giving power to the beast to cause an image to breathe and to live and to speak, knowing that Yah is the only one who has power to give life. It's boiling down to when we read in Deuteronomy that even if this occurs, this was to prove us to see if we love Yah or not. So if you love Yahuwah, that's all you owe to another man, because you're going to manifest the love of Yahuwah towards that man because you love Yahuwah first and you want to be the manifestation of the love of Yahuwah towards men. He say, for this thou shalt not commit adultery, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not bear false witness, thou shalt not covet. And if there be any other commandment is briefly comprehended in this saying, namely, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. And you know the key component of this? Indeed, Yahuwah is righteous all the way. Can't nobody in justice and judgment ever say Yahuwah offended them and did them any evil. This is why he tells us to treat one another like this, because then no one could ever be able in truth to open their mouth and say you did any evil to them. Yahuwah has done no evil to no man without cause. If Yahuwah was moved against any man, it was for cause. And their cause was their distinct and utter disobedience and defiance to his law, statutes, ordinance, and commandments of whatever they may be. Not just what's written in the law, but what he told a man to do. See, when he told Saul to kill the Amalekites, there's not a commandment that say you got to kill the Amalekites. He gave him an instruction and he defied it. When he told that man to punch that man in the face and he didn't listen to it, he defied it. See, if you want to have this ephod upon your body, then you have to sit back and you have to realize that this is a word that's going to converge in your soul. And that word is converging in your soul because it comes from the mouth of Elohim. You should notice here the law of Yahuwah is perfect. It converts the soul. The Torah of Yahuwah is perfect. Yahusha is the word made flesh. He is perfect. He will cause you to be born again. It will convert your soul. Because that's the word that came from his Father. Because if whoever received me, received him that sent me. Therefore, it causes you to be joined together and secured to the door, which is Yahusha. So when we're looking at this ephod and we're thinking about it and we weigh it and we look at the message contained in the characters of what it is, it's causing us to hear the word so you can be joined to Elohim. If you hear the word, then it should change you. There should be a renewing of your mind. This is what you need to think about when you read about an ephod. You need to think about when you're reading about and you see garment or raiment in a lot of instances, you should think about that this is the Son who is the messenger that can get me in the kingdom. That's why he tell you, let your garments always be white. Because you need those white garments. You need the Son to enter into the kingdom. You needed his message of repentance by his name, by faith in his name. You need that message. He was sent to bring you that message. What takes us back to, he took captivity and ascended on high to give gifts unto men. That's why I say how beautiful are the feet of those who bring the gospel of shalom and preach peace. Who is preaching the destruction of the authority of chaos. Who is preaching that through the body of Yahushua HaMashiach, sin has been defeated and destroyed, that you can be reborn and be counted worthy to enter into the kingdom of your Elohim and to behold his face and to praise his name and to bask in his righteousness in his light forever. And how bad do you want that? Nevertheless, love work no ill to his neighbor. Therefore, love is the fulfilling of the Torah. And that knowing the time, that it is now high time to awake out of sleep, for now is our salvation nearer than we believe. The night is far spent and the day is at hand. Let us therefore cast off the works of darkness and let us put on the armor of light. Let us walk honestly in the day and not in rioting and in drunkenness, not in chambering and wantonness, not in strife and envying. But put ye on the Master Yahushua HaMashiach and make not provision for the flesh to fulfill the lust thereof. So if you was to put on that ephod, that high priest garment, that would be symbolic of you putting Yahushua on, because he is that word that converts the soul, that joins you together to the door, joins you together to him. Consider that and weigh it in your inward parts. Let's go back to Exodus though. It was something else I wanted that came in my head. Y'all willing, it will return. We in verse 27. And 2 other rings of gold thou shalt make, and thou shalt put them on the 2 sides of the ephod, underneath toward the forepart thereof, over against the other coupling thereof, above the curious girdle of the ephod. The curious girdle. Curious girdle. We're going to take a look at the curious girdle. That curious girdle is a band or an ingenious work, or the name of the girdle that is on the ephod. It's a belt or it's a strap. The word is chaciyd. And when we look at that, we have the cot, we have the shan, and we have the bot. So when we look at the cot, what would we use? We would look at and we would use surround, because that belt will be surrounding your loins. When we look at the shan, we would turn around and we would more than likely use a pair or 2. There'd be no use to use sharp or to devour, to consume or cutting. So It surrounds a pair. Then when we look at the bot, we would say, hey, surrounds the family or to be in or with or son or tent floor or house. We would have to say that this curious girdle surrounding a pair. I want to say family, but to be in. We're going to have to use son for that one. I want you to look at son right this here, right? Son in the book of Job. And we sit back and look at girdle, but it's not going to be girdle. Come over here to the book of Job real quick. I want you to come over here to chapter 38 and verse 3. We'll make it verse 1. And let me see what word I got for gird over here on this here, because that what popped in my mind as I was thinking about this particular verse. That's definitely a different word. Nevertheless, it's close to it though. 38:1. Then Yahuwah answered Job out of the whirlwind and said, who is this that dark counsel by words without knowledge? Gird up now thy loins like a man, for I will demand of thee, and answer thou of me. Now, it's a different word that's used for gird here. It's not the same word with curious girdle. But he tells you, but it's the same definition. It's just a different word, which is something to use as a belt. The word is azar, to be specific, to encompass or to clothe, or metaphor of strength. So, that curious girdle is going to sit back and look at that this is strength. The strength that's covering around your waist, your loins, or the seat of your emotions, depending on which Hebrew words you sit back and you look at. So I want you to come over here to Psalms 25:8, if I'm not mistaken. Hold on one second. Alrighty then. So Psalms 25. I think it's Psalms 51 that I wanted. Yeah, it was Psalms 51. Psalms 51:10 is what I wanted. And it says, create in me a clean heart, O Elohim, and renew a right ruach within me. It's actually verse 6. Excuse me. Behold, thou desire truth in the inward parts, and in the hidden part thou shalt make me to know wisdom. So he has this curious girdle about his loins. We looked at that on Wednesday, that you seen Yahushua had that girdle in Daniel, and he had it in Revelation. And we looking at how it surrounds a pair to the sun, or surrounds those who are joined to the sun, because he gives that strength in your inward parts. See, the joy of Yahuwah is your strength. The trust in Yahuwah is your strength. For trust in Yahuwah is everlasting strength. So when you take this girdle, he told you to gird up your loins like a man. This is dealing with that we have to deal with what our strength is. We know that Paul told us, and we can read it real quickly. Excuse me, in 2 Corinthians chapter 13, where our strength derives from. And we talk about this. Well, I didn't talk that with all of y'all, but I guess I got to work that in now. I'm just going to end up working in on what we're talking about. When you look at your faith, and that's actually chapter 12, verse verse 13, which we're going to reference that and try to look at that for a moment. Actually, chapter 12, verse 7. It's that when your faith is tested, it tests your patience. Your patience is actually going to be reflective of what your strength in Elohim actually is. Those who have small strength, like, I guess I'm going to read the verse in a moment. That's what I'm going to do. Those who have small strength, you know what? I'm going to read that verse too. Just hold on. Unless I should be exalted above measure through the abundance of the revelations that was given to me, a thorn in the flesh, the messenger of chaciyd to buffet me, lest I should be exalted above measure. For this thing I besought the master thrice, that it might depart from me. He said unto me, my con is sufficient for thee, for my strength is made perfect in weakness. Most gladly, therefore, I will rather esteem in my infirmities, that the power of Mashiach may rest upon me. Now, of course, we're looking at a message from each of these things that pertain in the priest's garment. Because remember, we are sons of the high priest. Remember, we talked about that. If the priest give gifts to any of his sons, it be their inheritance. Because you got to realize you sons of the high priest, so therefore you would be in that line. You know he will do it. So I want y'all to think about that. To have the same framework as if your mentality for the women too, because there's no male or female in Mashiach, just one body. That I want you to be able to understand that and see that for yourself, of you applying and putting on the same garment, even though in reality a woman wouldn't put it on. But if you're putting on Yahushua, then you're putting on that same garment. You're putting on that ephod. You're putting on that breastplate of judgment. You're putting on that curious girdle. You're putting on that robe. You're putting on that fine linen. So I need you to sit back and I need you to see that in your mind. If you see that in your mind, I got this ephod on because this word has converted my soul to join me to Yahushua. That you can sit back and be able to see, I got this garment on, so therefore the messenger who is the son of Elohim allows me to enter into the kingdom. Because I put him on. This is what I understand. We just read this in Romans 13. He told you to put him on. And this is going to make sense when we get to the Urim and the Thummim. Because this is not a long message this evening. I'm really hitting extra stuff because it's really just that short. So when we look at it, he said, my strength is made perfect in weakness. Excuse me. Dang, I had the stuff in my head. Come over here to the book of Proverbs. Book of Proverbs, I want to say chapter 21. Chapter 24, but we will grab something in chapter 21. Let me see what 21 say. No, chapter 24, what we want. Chapter 24. 24 and 10. That's all we want. It's 24 and 10. Proverbs 24 and 10. He said, if thou faint in the day of adversity, thy strength is small. If you was to fall out in the day of adversity, your faith is small. Get from over here. So what does that mean? The day of adversity, thy strength is small. Let's turn around and let's look at the word for adversity. The word for adversity is sarah. That is straits, distress, trouble. Straits, distress, and trouble. Also means vex or rival right. So if you get in a little trouble, a little affliction, a little distress, a little adversity, and you fall out, the word for faint is rafa, which is to sink, to relax, to be disheartened, to withdraw, to abandon, to forsake, to show oneself slack. So because if you get a little bit of adversity, you turn from the word, that means your faith was small. A little adversity. And the word for strength here is koach. And then the word for small is sar, the root word for sarah. So it's a narrow, tight, hard pebble, flint, adversary, foe, oppressor, sorrow, anguish. Your faith is small. And why is that important? Romans 5:1. I just get it now. Romans 5:1. This is why this is important. Because also remembering that, you know, that ayin for that ephah could also mean experience and to know. So because you've experienced the word that converges the soul, you could throw that on top of that. That's what's going to allow you to be to know the words or the commands to be joined together to the door. But niggas is not knowing the word that converges the soul. They're not experiencing it because they're not using it. Romans 5:1. Therefore, being justified by faith, we have shalom with Elohim through our Master Yahushua HaMashiach, by whom also we have access by faith into this Khan, wherein we stand, and rejoice in the hope of the esteem of Elohim. And not only so, but we esteem in tribulations also, knowing that tribulation work patience, and patience experience, and experience hope, and hope make not ashamed, because the love of Elohim is shed abroad in our hearts by the Ruach HaKadosh, which is given unto us. For when we were yet without strength, in due time Mashiach died for the ungodly. So when you didn't have that power, he died in order you to have it. So therefore, if he's died in order to, when you was without strength, to make your strength small, excuse me, why are you fainting in the day of adversity? Why, when you face tribulation, you ready to turn from the word? You ready to forsake it? Now you troubled and you that's why he say they don't have no root in them. Then when persecution or tribulation arise of the word, by and by they are offended. Because it's Proverbs 24:10. Their faith is small. Their faith is small. And again, this is something we done talked about. Is if you want to see the hallmark, if someone has the character of Elohim, you look and see how they handle adversity. If they profess to have faith in Elohim and they faced adversity and they did not become slack in their service to Yahuwah, they did not forsake Yahuwah, they did not sink down and just put the word away, that is a person whose faith is strong, whose strength is strong. Look at something that he told Peter in Luke chapter 22, and then we will proceed to move on. This nigga here, man. Where's my verse at, man? Luke 22:31. Stop eating on that text. Stop it. Nasty bastard Jew. And the master said, Simon, Simon, behold, Hashatan have desired to have you, but that he may sift you as wheat. But I have prayed for thee, that thy faith fail not. But when thou art converted, strengthen thy brethren. Notice what he said, when you're changed. See, that word that converges the soul should change you. He told Peter, when you get converted, when you change, go strengthen your brethren. What are we strengthening them with? That word. The word. So you got to ask yourself a question. If you hearing the word on a regular basis, brought to you in Ruach and in truth, and righteousness and shalom, and your strength is not increased because of it, you need to look in the mirror and check yourself. See, a lot of people make a lot of excuses for a lot of things. But nobody is responsible for your level of faith or your level of strength. I can take you in the gym and show you how to strengthen yourself. But when I walk away, will you remember what you were shown to continue to get stronger? So if the word is given unto you in order for you to be strong, but when that person departs from you, you fall out and you perplexed and distressed, then it was never there. Because remember, this man say patience brings tribulation, bring forth patience. And patience bring forth experience, and experience hope, because then you begin to experience in tribulation the power of Elohim. Do you not remember your forefathers experiencing the power of Elohim in tribulation dealing with Egypt? What about Abraham? What about Jacob? Do you not know how many examples of people? What about David? What about Samson? What about Gideon? Before we even get to Yahushua, then we could talk about Saul, and we could talk about Peter. Before we even get to these people in the New Testament. What about Jeremiah? What about Hezekiah? What about Manasseh? All of these men experienced tribulation. That tribulation caused them to wait on Yahuwah. That them waiting on Yahuwah caused them to be able to experience the mercy and the grace and the love of Yahuwah. And therefore they placed their hope in him. And none of these men were left ashamed because of it. It always comes down to how much do we really believe and trust it. Do you trust this man with your whole heart and your whole soul? You know, I've said this in the past, and it's like this here, right? You cannot love anyone you don't trust. I don't care who they are. Do you know what I'm saying? You can't tell me you love someone and you don't trust them. Like, how could you marry someone you don't trust? And I ain't talking about naturally either. So how could you say, I want to be immersed and become the bride of the Lamb, and you don't trust him? What sense does that make? How could you say that you could be the wife to a man you don't trust? You don't trust his what? His ability to lead. You don't trust his sincerity. You don't trust his authenticity. You don't trust that he is who he says he is and he'll do what he say he do. Then why did you even want to be joined to a covenant in marriage with this man to begin with? Or you just doing it for show because that's what all the people are doing. That's the thing to do. You definitely can't love someone you don't trust. I just don't believe it. Somebody tell me they love somebody they don't trust them. I just met me a lie because I don't believe it. I don't believe it personally. So you can't tell me you love Yahuwah and you don't trust him. You can't tell me you love Yahushua and you don't trust him. Because if you trust him, your hope is in him. Nevertheless, back to Exodus. Good grief. I mean, if I'm wrong, you know, somebody give me a different perspective. That's how I see it, though. I don't see nobody loving somebody they don't trust. Those two things, in my personal opinion, go hand in hand. Because ain't nobody in this life that I done had love for or love that I didn't trust. There's a lot of people I ain't trust. And I ain't really love them like that neither. Not no pure, unadulterated love. Because you don't want to fool with somebody you don't trust. We know if you feel like you can't trust a person, you believe there's deceit there. Malignity, wickedness there. A propensity for evil. Verse 20, where we at? 27? We in verse 28. And they shall bind the breastplate upon the ring by the rings thereof unto the rings of the ephod with the lace of blue, that it may be above the curious girdle of the ephod, that the breastplate be not loose from the ephod. Now what do we use for kosher? Let me see. So we know we got the cot, the shan, the noon for that breastplate. So the breastplate cannot be loose from the ephod. So we know we got protect. And it's to protect the pair or the two that are joined to life with this breastplate. So now he's protecting those who are joined to life. So that these same people can be surrounded by the sun. And that the breastplate, so basically when you're looking at the breastplate, because on the breastplate, who knows what is on the breastplate of judgment? Who knows what's on the breastplate of judgment? Who knows what's on it? Exactly. Exactly. Right. Exactly. The names of all the tribes. So why would that be important if the breastplate cannot be loosed from the ephod? And we know from spelling the breastplate, you have the cot, the shan, and the noon. So as those who are protected, who are joined to life, or the pair to life, the pair that is protected of life cannot be loosed from this curious girdle. I said ephod, or did I say girdle? Let me make sure I didn't say the wrong thing. It's not loose from the ephod, so I read the wrong thing. My apologies. So then when we look at the ephod, it's those who are the word that converges the soul of the words of the commands that are joined together to the door. So these two things can't be separated. So what does that mean? When Mashiach say, those that are in my Father's hand, they can't be plucked out. And also when he say, what shall separate? Romans chapter 8. You sit back and look at it, right? The ephod cannot be separated from this breastplate. So let's look at Romans 8. And it's taking us back to your strength and to your faith all at the same time. Romans 8 and 34. My bad, because I was looking right at this thing, looking at Curious Girdle when I should have been looking at the ephod. So that's my fault. 8 and 33. Romans 8 and 33. Who shall lay anything to the charge of Elohim's elect? It is Elohim that justify. Who is he that condemn? It is Mashiach that died. Yea, rather that is risen again, who is even at the right hand of Elohim, who also make intercession for us. Who shall separate us from the love of Mashiach? So what is going to, what if the breastplate is symbolic of the children of Yasharal, and we are those who are protected by life, by that same word that converges the soul from the mouth of Elohim, that calls us to be joined together to Yahusha? What could cause that? Nothing can separate us from him. Those who actually have been converted by that word that came from his mouth. Who shall separate us from the love of Mashiach? Shall tribulation? So should trouble separate you? Because you need to gird up your loins like a man. If you gird up your loins like a man, how would you be separated? That's not going to happen. Because you know that tribulation is going to work patience, and that patience is going to work experience, and that experience is going to bring forth hope. And hope make not ashamed, because he desired wisdom in the inward parts, because you would have girded your loins up like a man. So therefore is tribulation or distress or persecution or famine or nakedness or peril or sword. This is why he say if you faint in the day of adversity, your strength is small. So you mean to tell me you got faith in Elohim and a little trouble, a little distress, a little persecution, a little lack of food, a little lack of clothes, a little trouble, and a little sword gonna cause you to be separated? As it is written, for thy sake we are killed all the day long. We are counted as sheep for the slaughter. Nay, in all things we are more than conquerors through him that loved us. For I am persuaded, get from over here, that neither death, nor life, nor malachim, nor principalities, nor powers, nor things present, nor things to come, nor height, nor depth, nor any creature shall be able to separate us from the love of Elohim, which is in Yahushua HaMashiach, our master. Why is that important when it said nor malachim? Because that takes us back to what we referenced earlier with Job. How Shaitan said if you do this here, he'll curse you to your face. And Job experienced the trouble. He experienced the peril. He experienced all the distress. He experienced persecution from his friends. And he said, I will not let go of my integrity. I will not reject and curse Yahuwah. This adversary, this stuff that's happened to me is not going to separate me from the love I have for my power, for my Elohim, because I trust in him, because I hope in him. So therefore I will wait for him. See, that's what our people lack in these days and times. That is not the mind and heart that people possess. They'll go push it on their own because they don't trust Yahuwah. They will not wait for him. Everybody wants to be their own God. They don't believe in the true and living God. So how could he ever be able to bestow? See, we want the things of this life and not the things that are to come, because we don't really believe that it's coming. We don't believe that it's coming, because if we did, our mind states and our spirits would be drastically different. Let's go back to Exodus though. Exodus 28 and 29. Because we're getting about to what we got to deal with for tonight. I'm glad I caught myself. And Aaron shall bear the names of the children of Yasharal in the breastplate of judgment upon his heart when he go into the Kadesh place for a memorial before Yahuwah continually. And thou shalt put in the breastplate of judgment the Urim and the Thummim, and they shall be upon Aaron's heart when he go in before Yahuwah. And Aaron shall bear the judgment of the children of Yasharal upon his heart before Yahuwah continually. The Urim and the Thummim. Is any of y'all familiar with the Urim and the Thummim and what it is and what they about? Is anybody familiar with it?
It sounds like some stones, if I could recall, but I might be wrong.
You are correct, sir. They are stones. Do you know what these stones were for?
I think the stones, if I could recall, it was either on the breastplates of the high priest.
That is correct, sir.
In Exodus.
That is correct.
Okay.
But do you know what they were used for?
Now that I'm gonna take a wild guess. It could be for I ain't gonna try to guess. I'm gonna I would tell you, no, I don't know what it is for.
Does anybody else is anybody else capable of answering said question? Did anybody know what the Urim and Thummim was for?
Can't they heal with those though? You can use those stones as healing?
No, they didn't. They didn't use them for healing. They didn't use them for healing. Anybody got it? Does anybody know what they were used for? All right, cool. They were used for the purpose of seeking the counsel of Yahuwah. So they use these things to get a word.
Where you find that at in scripture?
We finna look at it now. Yeah, we're about to look at that right now. So I also want y'all to know, for information's sake, and we'll probably come back and revisit it another time, that you can look at Leviticus chapter 8 and verse 1 to about 9, and it also tells you the same thing about this garment, just not in great detail. Urim and Thummim is not spoke a lot about in the Word. You know what I'm saying? But we finna look at the places that it is. Urim means lights. Thummim means perfection. So these two things are the lights of perfection. Now, the characters for the Urim are the Aleph, the U, the Rosh, the Yod, and the Mem. So when we look at Aleph, I think what we use for that is we use to teach, or the Father teaches, or taught. When we look at the U, we see that the Father taught you so you could be joined together or secured to Him. When we look at the Rosh, we sit back and see that that teaching was to bring you to the thoughts of the highest. The Yod, turn around and we look at that and we say, you know what? This will cause us to execute the actions or the work of Elohim, which are through His Spirit, when we get to that mean or that water. So when you look at this here, the Father is teaching you to be joined to Him by His thoughts, so you could do His work by His Spirit. Does that make sense for everybody? Again, you got the Aleph, the U, the Rosh, the Yah, and the Mem. So the Father is teaching you to be joined together to His thoughts, to do His work by His Spirit. This is what we get when we look at the Urim. So now we swing to Numbers 27 and we look at verse 18. That's where we'll pick this up at. And it says, and Yahuwah said unto Moses, take thee Yahushua the son of Nun, a man in whom is the Ruach, and lay thy hand upon him, and set him before Eleazar the priest, and before all the congregation, and give him a charge in their sight. And thou shalt put some of thy honor upon him, that all the congregation of the children of Yasharal may be obedient. He shall stand before Eleazar the priest, listen what he said now, who shall ask counsel for him after the judgment of Urim before Yahuwah. At his word they shall go out, and at his word they shall come in, both he and all the children of Yasharal with him, even all the congregation. So it says that Eleazar the priest is to ask counsel of the judgment of the Urim for Yahushua son of Nun. Hello. So let's look at the word counsel. And what it is, that's where I forgot about that. So what it is, when it says here, it's a whole sentence. Counsel for him after the judgment is strictly the mishpat. So we already know this here. This is to destroy the thoughts that contain sin. So the Urim is to reveal the will of Yahuwah. That's what it's for. The high priest had it, and he would wear, look what he told it to. He told you that he would wear that upon his what? Upon his heart in Exodus. Which is your layup, which is the teaching that gets you to the Son. Why would I say it's the teaching that gets you to the Son versus the teaching that gets you in the house? Come over here to Romans 10. Put that shoe down. Get it out your mouth. 10 and 5. For Moses described the righteousness which is the Torah, that the man which do these things shall live by them. But the righteousness which is of faith speak on this wise. Say not in thy heart, who shall ascend into Shamahim, that is, to bring Mashiach down from above. Or who shall descend into the deep, that is, to bring up Mashiach again from the dead. But what saith it? The word is nigh thee, even in thy mouth and in thy heart, that is, the word of faith which we preach. That if thou shalt confess with thy mouth the Master Yahushua, and shalt believe in thy heart that Elohim raised him from the dead, thou shalt be saved. For with the heart man believe unto righteousness, and with the mouth confession is made unto salvation. Now why is that important if we look at the Urim? Is the teaching, right? It is the teaching that will cause you to be joined together to the thoughts to do the work of the Father's Spirit. And the high priest has to wear this upon the breastplate of his heart, because it's those who are protected of life. And this is the teaching of the Son. So remember, it says he should ask counsel for him after the mishpat, after the judgment of the Urim. So he's going to ask after the destruction of the words that contain sin. So therefore the Urim is going to tell you what to do that is correct. And it means light. So why is that important? John chapter 3. (3 and 18). And why is it important? Because we don't have, see, you can have the Urim and the Thummim with you when you put on Yahushua. Because Yahushua is the high priest and he stands in the Kadesh place to make intercession before you. And this is the garment that he has on. Why you think Paul tell you about put on the breastplate of righteousness? Because in that breastplate is what? The Urim and the Thummim. That's what's in it. The lights of perfection is what's in it. He that believe on him is not condemned, but he that believe not is condemned already, because he have not believed in the name of the only begotten Son of Elohim. And this is the condemnation, that light is come into the world, and men love darkness rather than light, because their deeds were evil. For everyone that do evil hate the light, neither come to the light, lest his deeds should be reproved. But he that do truth come to the light, that his deeds may be manifest that they are wrought in Elohim. See, a lot of people don't want to come to that Urim and that Thummim. They don't want to come to that. Because if they come to it, then guess what's going to happen? Their deeds are going to have to be corrected. It's going to have to be made manifested where their actions lie. See, we don't like to look and see where our actions lie. See, I want you to come over here to Ezra chapter 2 and verse 60. And we're going to look at something real fast to show you again that the high priest, that they sought counsel. They sought counsel from Yahuwah by the Urim and the Thummim. And then we're going to look at a nigga who sought to do that and then he didn't get an answer. The children of... Shut up. Nigga, I said shut up. The children of Deliah, you need to find you somebody to play with. The children of Deliah, the children of Tobiah, the children of Dakota, 652. And the children of the priests, the children of Hababiah, the children of Kaz, the children of Bazarilla, which took a wife of the daughters of Barizah the Gildite, and was called after their name. They sought their register among those that were reckoned by genealogy, but they were not found. Therefore were they, as polluted, put from the priesthood. You know why this is important? Why do y'all think this is important? And I got two things floating through my head, one natural and one spiritual. Why would y'all think this here? They couldn't find their name. They couldn't reckon their name by genealogy in the register. Let's look and see what the word is for register. They couldn't find their name in the register. What do y'all think about when you hear that? They couldn't find their name in the register. So because they couldn't be found in the register, they were put out of the priesthood because they were polluted.
In the book
Your name not being written in the book of life.
Yep, that is correct, Deidre and Will. That's definitely what it is, because it's the writing, the document, the roll. Can't find their name there. So if they polluted, what are they polluted from? The word for polluted is gall. They're definitely defiled, desecrated, got a stain on themselves.
They haven't been found blameless.
Indeed. So now let's turn around and let's look at it this way. One, that is correct. Their name is not in the book of life. But how are they priests? How would that be pertaining to us now? Because it said they were put from the priesthood. So how is that pertaining to us now? Because I can kill two birds with one stone and not read multiple verses. So anybody got any idea that could pertain to us now? Matter of fact, before we do this here, let me go 1 Peter chapter 1 verse 2. 1 Peter chapter 1 verse 2. Let's do that. 1 Peter chapter 2. I don't want verse 1. I want verse 4. See, we got to make sure that we not found, that we got to be able to be make sure that we found in the book. So they weren't found in the book. We're going to come back to the book of Ezra because we haven't finished that point. He say, to whom coming as unto a living stone, disallowed indeed of men, but chosen of Elohim and precious. And remember how we mentioned the Urim and Thummim ain't nothing but stones, and they precious stones. And they were chosen of Elohim to be put in his breastplate. Ye also as lively stones are built up a spiritual house, a Kadesh priesthood, to offer up spiritual sacrifices acceptable to Elohim by Yahushua HaMashiach. Wherefore also it is contained in the scripture, behold, I lay in Zion a chief cornerstone, elect, precious, and he that believe on him shall not be confounded. And again, he's reiterating what we mentioned earlier. No one who believes in Yahuwah will be left ashamed. Yes, some of your forefathers held to the promise and didn't attain it, but they died in faith. So therefore they have a good report. Their name's in the register. They're not polluted. See, a lot of niggas is polluted. Revelation chapter 1, they just sustained. See, praise the land. We're going to go a little bit backwards of what something we talked about Tuesday. So I'm just going to do it a little different and knock it out now. Revelation chapter 1 and verse 5. Because you got a lot of niggas who just stains and spots. They just outright disgusting. All of us notice here, everybody know when they wear an all-white outfit, boy, you walk a little bit gingerly. You're a little bit more careful in everything you do because you don't want nothing to get on that fit. And that's how you need to sit back and look at your natural body. You don't want your spirit, nothing to cause you to be stained. Nothing for you to have a spot or blemish on you whatsoever. Whether it be actions, thoughts, or people. Because some people are stains and blots. And we're going to read that because the book going to tell us that. And from Yahushua HaMashiach, who is the faithful witness, the first begotten of the dead, and the prince of the malice of the earth, unto him that loved us and washed us from our sins in his own blood, and hath made us kings and priests unto Elohim and his Abba, to him be esteem and dominion forever and ever. Amen. So, Yahusha is the one who calls us to be a priest by his blood. He's also the one to wash us, to cause us to not be stained. But let's come over here to 2 Peter chapter 2 real quick. Excuse me. Good grief. 2 Peter chapter 2, probably about verse 11. No, I don't want verse 11. Yeah, verse 11 is fine. Nope, we want verse 10. 2 Peter chapter 2 verse 10 is 10:30. But chiefly them that walk after the flesh in the lust of uncleanliness and despise government. Presumptuous are they, self-willed. They are not afraid to speak evil of dignities. Now, why is this important? Now I have to do this here to not be backwards. So I can take the whole, because I'm doing it a little different. So I want you to come over here to 1 Samuel, whole 2 Peter. We good in Revelation. I want you to come over here to 1 Samuel chapter 28. I want you to look at verse 1. And we're going to look at somebody who was self-willed, who was presumptuous, and despised authority. Because it's still tying into the Urim and the Thummim as well. Because when we talked about this the first time, I didn't work Ezra in this fashion. So I'm trying to kill it all. See, and it came to pass, because when we talk about the Thummim, we're just going to be talking about what the word means, because it's the same exact verses. Wherever you see the Urim at, the Thummim is right behind it. And it came to pass in those days that the Philistines gathered their armies together for warfare, to fight Yasharal. Achish said unto David, know thou assuredly that thou shalt go out with me to battle, thou and thy men. David said to Achish, surely thou shalt know what thy servant can do. Achish said to David, therefore will I make thee a keeper of my head forever. Now Samuel was dead, and all Yasharal lamented him and buried him in Ramah, even in his own city. And Saul had put away those that had familiar ruachs and the wizards out of the land. And the Philistines gathered themselves together and came and pitched in Shunem. And Saul gathered all Yasharal together, and they pitched in Gabor. And when Saul saw the host of the Philistines, he was afraid, and his heart greatly trembled. And Saul inquired of Yahuwah, and Yahuwah answered him not, neither by dreams, nor by Urim, nor by prophets. So what does Saul turn around and do? We could come back to 2 Peter chapter. See, Saul was seeking counsel on what to do. So that means if he was seeking counsel by Urim, that means he went to the high priest, and Yah didn't answer. Why did Yah not answer him? Yah didn't answer him because Saul did not like to retain Elohim in his knowledge. So therefore Elohim gave him over to those things which are not convenient, gave him over to a reprobate mind. Saul put the familiar spirits out the land and then went and sought one. So the same way how the master told you that if a man had an unclean spirit in him and they put it out and then he come back and those spirits be joined to him, it is worse for that man at the latter end than it was for him at the beginning. Which is why Peter tells you in this same 2 Peter chapter 2, of which we're looking at, that it was better for a man never to have known than to know and to walk away. Those are strong words. It was better for you to have never known than to know and walk away. Because he told you what he was going to do to you in Luke 12 if you know when you buck. Yeah, you're going to get destroyed if you didn't know and you were bucking. But it's going to be worse for you if you knew and you bucked. That's why I tell y'all, and I tell people, period, if this ain't what you want to do, just don't do it. Don't sit there and gather all this information of the living Elohim to go do what you want to do anyway. Verse 10 in 2 Peter chapter 2 again. But chiefly them that walk after the flesh and the lust of uncleanness and despise government. Presumptuous they are, they, self-willed, they are not afraid to speak evil of dignities. Whereas Malachim, which are in greater power and might, bring not railing accusation against them before Yahuwah. But these, as natural brute beasts made to be taken and destroyed, speak evil of the things that they understand not. And they shall utterly perish in their own corruption, and they shall receive the reward of unrighteousness, as they that count it pleasure to riot in the daytime. See, when he telling you like this here, right? You saying you rioting in the daytime, so you saying Mashiach is the light. He's the day star. And you feel like you can live unruly. And Mashiach, remember we were talking about, oh, you've been delivered in this house to do all these abominations? So you feel comfortable of committing evil in the sun? This is why he say that there's no more sacrifice for willful sin. If you know, how you rioting in the daytime? He say Elohim is light and no part darkness. So how can we say anybody who say they have fellowship with him and dwell in darkness lie? The truth ain't in them. Ain't nowhere in the world we can be rioting in the daytime. That's insane. He say spots they are and blemishes, sporting themselves with their own deceivings while they feast with you. Having eyes full of adultery that cannot cease from sin, beguiling unstable souls. On heart that they have exercised with covetous practices, cursed children. What do y'all think that means when it says an unstable soul? What is an unstable soul? What do y'all think that means when it said an unstable soul?
Lukewarm, I think.
Lukewarm? Anybody else?
What was the question again?
What is an unstable soul? It says that wicked people, the spots and blemishes in your feast, beguile unstable souls. Keep in mind, this is why we talking about those who were polluted being put out the priesthood. So what is an unstable soul?
Somebody who's up and down.
Somebody who is up and down.
Not stable in their faith.
Absolutely.
Not stable in their foundation.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I think about that scripture where it say you getting tossed to and fro in every doctrine.
Yeah, and we did look at that. Indeed. And when we say when we look at what did Eve say when she was stepped to by Yahuwah about what she had done? What was the first thing came out of her mouth? The serpent beguiled me. So wouldn't we be able to say that Eve was an unstable soul? And if we could say Eve was an unstable soul, based off of Eve's words that's written, contained in the text, what can we point to say that she was unstable? Anybody got any idea what we can point to that we could sit back and say Eve is unstable? What made her unstable?
She was the word.
All the word by James is the man in all his ways.
No, he just said. Nah, that ain't it. I said based off her words and what she said. And one of y'all just mentioned it because she said we not supposed to do this or we'll die. And then he told her you will not die. Then she said it looks pleasing to the eye. It looks like this and it looks. That's how you knew she was unstable. She had doubts. Because the Greek word for that and the James you mentioned is somebody who has doubts. Which goes to what D just mentioned, you're not stable in your foundation because he said that's the chief cornerstone and you built upon it. Those who hope in that won't be ashamed. So when your faith is strong, when you're tested, when there's a trial, when there's tribulation, when there's persecution, you won't be moved. This is why he say those who are spots and blemishes beguile unstable souls. They seek to deceive those who have doubts, seek to deceive those who are not built on a strong foundation. They have not built their house upon a rock. Therefore, when the winds come and the rain come, their house is blown over. Remember what he told you. He said, whosoever hear my words and do them, I liken to a man who built his house upon a rock. So when the winds come and the rains come and blow upon that house won't fall. But those who hear my word, and they take it back to what we looked at Malachi, if you hearken unto me, or be cursed. See, but if you don't listen, and you don't do them, then your house will fall, and great will be the fall of it. And this is why these men, and when we look at it in the spiritual context of them being removed from the priesthood, because you have not been washed. So therefore you would be spots and blemishes in the feast, seeking to beguile unstable souls, cursed children. Because if you're unclean, you're cursed, you're going to hell. End of the day. Got to be clean. Why should make you clean? You are clean from the word which I have spoken unto you, that you could be without spot, wrinkle, and blemish, so he could present it to himself an esteemed house, an esteemed body, without spot, wrinkle, or blemish, or any such thing. He told you in Job that if you hearken unto his words and put sin out of your tabernacle, you can lift up your face without spot. So when we look at it, he said people were spots and blemishes here. People. He said people were spots and blemishes. See, Absalom is an example of a man who sought to beguile unstable souls because he went to win the hearts of the people to deceive them. See, the adversary always goes after. This is why he said, Satan has decided to have you, Simon. But I have prayed for thee that thy faith fail not. And when you're converted, strengthen your brethren. He was letting Peter know, you got some faith. It ain't strong as it could be. You're not stable. You got doubts. So because you have doubts, this man can get you. Before we look at James, come over here to the Epistle of Jude. And this is why I be telling y'all, like I said, man, you can make any move you want in your life. But if you know your faith is not firm, some moves, you might want to pause and wait. See, when you look at it, right, Yahushua is powerful because he has faith in his Father and the works that he came to do. His wife should be powerful because his wife has faith in him. So when they join together, it's a unit that has faith and Yahuwah Elohim, the creator of all things. Which is why he says, if you do this, then they will know that Yahuwah have sent me. Because it's going to be that power. See, people of faith are very, very powerful. That power is because of their trust in Elohim. See, most people look at that power as to be able to work signs and wonders and miracles, but it's the power to be able to endure and to stand firm. And regardless if it's power in family members who in the faith, power in friends who in the faith, or power of a man and a woman who in the faith who are joined together in Mashiach. There's power in that. Because this man say, wherever 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, I'm in the midst. So you mean to tell me if 2 or 3 people are gathered together who have a strong faith in Yahushua, that the power of Elohim is not in the midst of that? That can be magnified on a level that people could not even be able to quantify in their faithless minds. Nevertheless, Epistle of Jude, verse 19, make it 17. The Epistle of Jude in verse 17. Got to get that faith up, man. I done seen too many people stumble and fall because they built their faith upon a shaky foundation. Some were strong enough to acknowledge that they did that and they needed to rebuild their faith, and others did not, and they strayed away. But beloved, remember ye the words which were spoken before. Remember the words which were spoken before of the apostles of our Master Yahushua HaMashiach, how that they told you there should be mockers in the last time who should walk after their own ungodly lusts. These be they who separate themselves sensual, not having the Ruach. But ye beloved, building up yourselves on your most Kadesh faith, praying in the Ruach HaKadosh, keep yourselves in the love of Elohim, looking for the mercy of our Master Yahushua HaMashiach unto eternal life. And some have compassion, making a difference, and others say with fear, pulling them out of the fire, hating even the garment spotted by the flesh. See, you shouldn't even want, and why is that important? Because if we look at garment as being beget, and it's the son who is the messenger that gets in the door, and it says that, shall the body of Mashiach be joined to a harlot? Elohim forbid. If we seek to rebuild the things that we destroy, we make ourselves a transgressor. Is Mashiach the minister of sin? Elohim forbid. So what am I trying to say? We would not want to put a stain on Mashiach whatsoever, because he is your garment, because you put him on. So you wouldn't dare want your garment. The book tells you in Ecclesiastes chapter 9 about verse 7, let your garments always be white and let your head be covered with ointment. So you mean to tell me you're going to put what you, how many of y'all going to put an all white outfit on and then go roll around in the mud? Grab a bottle of mustard and ketchup and spray it on your clothes. Well, that's what we would be doing when we entertain sin. We're allowing our garment to be spotted. If we walk in the Ruach, we ought to live in the Ruach. I just would listen to the brother, man. Brother was like, okay, they trying to say that we supposed to be, ain't no script to be saying that Israel wouldn't know who they was and to wake them up and all that old stuff right there. So the brother said he pulled Deuteronomy 32, showing where he said he would cause their name to be ceased from remembrance. This same verse is quoted in Romans. And he was like, see, and the Christians couldn't answer. And now he like, oh, the Israelites got this. Like, the gospel is not about that. It's the good news from death. It's the saving from death. Sin has been put away on your behalf of the body of one man. Don't stain it. You should despise, the same way you put that all white fit on, and you probably put something in your desk at school so when you sat down, your pants or your dress wouldn't get dirty, your skirt wouldn't get dirty, your shorts wouldn't get dirty. That's the same way you need to live your life. You put Yahushua on, you got an all white fit on, fine linen, clean and white. Come on back to Ezra. I'm gonna crank it up a notch because I want to make sure I work this last. Well, I need James. My apologies. This thing in Deuteronomy 33. James 1:1, and we come back to Ezra chapter 2. And again, when we look at the Urim, it was tied to the thoughts. See, Saul was seeking counsel after the Urim, but for what? Saul, you were self-willed. You didn't follow after the teaching of your father. That's why you wasn't joined to him. And that's the part I forgot to mention to y'all. When we look at Saul seeking after the Urim, what was he seeking after it for? He didn't take the teaching of his father to join him together to the thoughts of Elohim, so he could do the works of Elohim. He was seeking to do his own work every time. Every time he was seeking to do his own work. Every time. And now you want to go seek counsel. That's why he told you that in Ezekiel. Anybody who want to come seek counsel from me, don't seek it from one of my prophets. I'm going to answer you to your face, nigga. You ain't been seeking my counsel. You ain't been seeking my thoughts. You ain't been seeking my word. But now because you in a little bit of trouble, you want to seek after me now. That's why he say seek Yahuwah while he may be found. Because in the time of great trouble, it ain't going to enter into his ears. James, a servant of Elohim and of the Master Yahushua HaMashiach, to the 12 tribes which are scattered abroad, greeting. My brethren, count it all joy when you fall in diverse temptations, knowing this, that the trying of your faith work patience, but let patience have a perfect work, that you may be perfect, entire, and wanting nothing. See, a lot of us don't count it as a joyful thing when you and he said diverse temptations, so that means different things to prove your faith. Because he said if you know this, it will work your patience for you to wait and trust in Yahuwah, and that to let that patience have a perfect work so you don't lack anything. See, a lot of us lack because we don't want that perfect work to be accomplished. Go. Verse 5. If any of you lack wisdom, let him ask of Elohim that give to all men liberally and upbraid not, and it shall be given him. But let him ask in faith, nothing wavering. For he that waver is like a wave of the sea, driven with the wind tossed. For let not that man think he shall receive anything of Yahuwah. A double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. A double-minded man will always doubt. That's why the people when Mashiach were raising them from the dead, they were saying the stuff they were saying. Well, ain't no more room on him. Yeah, Shell, I can't merge your calling. There ain't no more room.
Will hung up.
Well, his phone ain't hung up on here. It's still on here. I hang it up for him, though. Oh, now it has. Let's go over here to Ephesians chapter 4, where it was mentioned about getting tossed to and fro. See, when you unstable and you have doubts and you don't trust in Yahuwah, Ephesians 4 and 11. That's how you get double-minded. That's why you've seen examples in the New Testament. He say, help me with my unbelief. Because they had doubts. They were double-minded. That's why he would ask, do you believe that I can do this? Do you believe that I can do this? That's why he said, whosoever liveth and believeth in me shall never taste death. Believe thou this? Are you double-minded? You can't ask for Yahuwah for life and you got doubts. You can't ask this man to do something for you and you got doubts. That's the unstable. This is how the serpent is able to come through and beguile you. Because you unstable. You don't really believe. And tribulation and persecution and distress and adversity prove this out. That's why he say, if you faint in the day of adversity, your faith is small. Your strength is small. But if you stand strong in the day of adversity, then I know as a surety, the faith of Elohim resides in that individual. And that doesn't mean that you don't get sad. Because guess what? Elijah walked up and asked this man to kill him. He said, take my life. Does that mean Elijah's faith was small? Absolutely not. You ain't see Elijah fold up. He didn't fold up. You ain't see David fold up. These men were sad and dealing with all that type of stuff, but they kept going. Because you still dust and ashes. That don't mean you walk around, there's nothing wrong. I'm not saddened. Yeah, I may be saddened. I may be angry. I may be down. But I ain't finna fall out and turn my back on Yahuwah though. Move. Go. And he gave some apostles and some prophets and some evangelists and some pastors and teachers for the perfecting of the chaciyd, for the work of the ministry, for the edifying of the body of Mashiach, till we all come into the unity of the faith, unto the knowledge of the Son of Elohim, unto a perfect man, unto the measure of the stature of the fullness of Mashiach, that we henceforth be no more children, tossed to and fro, being carried about with every wind of doctrine, by the sleight of men and cunning craftiness, whereby they lie in wait to deceive. See, that's an unstable soul. See, because when you in the fullness of Mashiach and you built upon that rock and that foundation, you cannot be deceived. You're built upon that rock, or that light, or that Urim that we're talking about, which is the light. And that light is what? His thoughts and his spirit. And you're joined to it because he taught you about himself. That's why he say, every man who taught of Elohim come unto me. It's written in the prophets, they all shall be taught of Elohim. Therefore, all that have heard of the Father come unto me. So you're joined to him to do his work by the spirit of Elohim. Back to Ezra. I started late, so it's gonna be 11:30 max. That's how long I'm gonna go after 11 o'clock. Ezra chapter 2. If I can find it. And I did. We stopped at verse what? 62. So we already know how to, as was mentioned, they weren't found in the book. He says everyone in Revelation 20, he said everyone whose name is not found in the book of life is cast into the lake of fire because they have been polluted. I'll read verse 62 again. These sought their register among those that were reckoned by genealogy, but they were not found. Therefore were they as polluted, put from the Why is that important? All Yasharal is not of Yasharal. You're going to have people who are Yasharal by the flesh, who are going to seek their genealogy and to be reckoned in that book. And Yahushua is going to tell them, depart from me, you work of iniquity. I never knew you. Your name ain't in this book. We did many great deeds in your name. We cast out devils. We ate and drunk in your presence. Nigga, I don't know you. We were Israelites. Your name ain't in the book, cuz. I don't know you. You pollute. If your name ain't in the book, that means you unclean. That means if you're unclean, that means you can't dwell in the presence of Elohim. Therefore, he will reject you. You better make sure your name is found in that book. And Tershatha said unto them that they should not eat of the most Kadesh things till there stood up a priest with the Urim and with the Thummim. So guess what, right? Why is that mentioned? Because this man is letting it be known that if there is not a genealogy record and these men are saying that they're of the seed of Aaron, that we can't allow them to eat the set apart things that are mentioned in Leviticus, the set apart bread. It's Leviticus 21, I should say. Until there's a high priest that we can seek the counsel of Yahuwah that he can tell us this or not. That's what the Urim and Thummim was for. It was for counsel. It was for judgment. They would know what the will of Yahuwah was. When we come over here and we look at Thummim, and like I say, it's all in the same places. The same places you find the Urim, that's where you're gonna find the Thummim at. You ain't. It's not a difference. It's actually two less places where it's mentioned, but it's mentioned in the same place. So when we look at Thummim, that means perfection. So we got a tile, a meme, and a yard. Because then we're just going to be being redundant. So when we look at this being in perfection and we look at tile, we want to sit back and look at a joining together of a covenant. When we look at the yard, we want to sit back and say, hey, we're joined together to do the work or the actions or the worship or the deeds of the Spirit. And this is how you get light of perfection. Because these things, now because you have taken the counsel to be joined together to the thoughts of Elohim to do his work, now you can be joined together of that covenant to do the deeds. And why is it important? Because you take these things upon your heart. So that means when you carry it in your heart, that means thy will be done. On earth as it is in heaven. Not my will be done, but thy will be done. That means you're constantly taking his word with you and seeking his face that you may do his will and not your own. That you seek the counsel. That's why he say, Seek Yahuwah, lean not to your own understanding, and let him direct your path. The steps of a good man are ordered by Yahuwah. How many people are that submissive that they will allow this man to direct their steps in their life to go in the direction that he wants them to go in, versus trying to direct and control their own life? Because see, when you're trying to direct and control your own life, you your own God. This is why he said he seek those to serve him in Ruach and in truth. Those who can humble themselves under the mighty hand of Elohim, that he may exalt you in due time and lift you up. Because he's already lifting you up, because he's bearing you on the best plate of judgment, because he was supposed to bear your iniquities. So he lifts you up to Elohim to make intercession on your behalf. Some of y'all sitting right here right now who can hear my voice, or watching this later, or watching it now, Yahushua make an intercession for you every day. This is a fact. I can't say for everybody, because then I'd be lying, because we know it ain't going to be for everybody. But for some of us, that man make intercession for you every day. That means this man speak on your behalf to Yahuwah every day. That's if you pray every day anyway. I would hope that would be the case. Clearly, if he make an intercession on your behalf, clearly you got to be making some manner of supplication to him. This is the truth. This man said that. We'll read it in Hebrews chapter 7 just so y'all can see that. I didn't want you to know. I'm talking about, I didn't want y'all to know that. I can't say for everybody who will hear this or see this, because that'll be a lie. But for some of us, that man do that. 7:25. Or 7:24. He said, but this man, because he continued forever, have an unchangeable priesthood. Wherefore he is able also to save them to the uttermost that come to Elohim by him, seeing he ever lived to make intercession for them. Yahushua lives forever for one purpose, to make intercession on your behalf. Now that's love and mercy right there, and the goodness of which cannot be matched. This is why you should be offended at anything and anyone who makes a mockery and a disrespect of your Elohim. I don't care if it's in song, in movies, in TV. That junk should not sit well with you. If you understand how much this man love you, it said this man say he ever lived to make intercession to Elohim for you if you come to Elohim by him. Say he ever mean to do it. And guess what that takes us back to? Because you put that garment on because of the beget, because that's the son's the messenger to get you into the door. He trying to get you into the Most Kadesh place. You can't even enter into the Kadesh of Kadesh without him. Now you got boldness to be able to step straight to Elohim by him to get your salvation, because he going to go on your steed. He going to do it for you. And he lived every day. This is a true, unadulterated fact. Boy, Yahushua made intercession for some of us today. That you got to really see. I don't think sometimes we sit there and think about that. You don't even sit there and think about that. And if you thinking about, you know what, I know he ain't making no intercession on my behalf, what you gonna do to change it? Because if he's interceding on your behalf, that means you're living upright and just. Because we know Elohim don't hear the supplications of transgressors, of sinners. He don't hear them. So Yahushua can't even make it. Remember, he said he was receiving the incense, and this was the prayers of the chaciyd, those he support, because they're doing the work. So therefore they're separated. So of course he's going to make intercession for you. If you want the support, separate yourself by doing the work of Elohim. And the work of Elohim is to believe on him whom he has sent. And if you believed on him whom he has sent, then you would not have no spots and blemishes on your garment then. Period. Deuteronomy chapter 33. Oh yeah, we'll be done way before the time period I gave myself. Deuteronomy 33 and 8. There's some other things in here, but y'all willing, we'll look at those in the future. I will not share those with you this evening because it will be off the beaten path. And we did it the other day. I did it for an example. Deuteronomy 33 and 8. And of Levi he said, let thy Thummim and thy Urim be with thy chaciyd one, because that's the word that's there. Kadesh is not there. Chaciyd is there. Whom thou did prove at Massa, and with whom thou did strive at the waters of Meribah, who said unto his father and to his mother, I have not seen him. Neither did he acknowledge his brethren, nor knew his own children. For they have observed thy word and kept thy covenant. They shall teach Jacob thy judgments, and Yasharal thy Torah. They shall put incense before thee, and whole burnt sacrifice upon the altar. Baruch Yahuwah his substance, and accept the work of his hands. Smite through the loins of them that rise against him, and of them that hate him, that they rise not again. Now I'm going to tell y'all something. Deuteronomy 33 and 11 is what the One West camps use to say that the children of Haiti, or the people of Haiti, are Levites. Have any of y'all ever heard that before? That the people say that the Levites are Haitians. Have any of y'all ever heard that before? I'll take that silence.
Yeah.
Okay, so cool. Have any of y'all ever heard that they use Deuteronomy 33 and 11 as their justification for this?
No.
Their justification is saying that when Toussaint and the rest of those gangsters, you know, when we say gangsters, not in a criminal way, but in a hardcore warrior way, when they rose up against the French and overthrew them, and then the French never made war with them, they were saying that this was that prophecy coming to pass, Deuteronomy 33 and 11. That's what they use. So nevertheless, notice that he said of Levi to let the Thummim and the Urim always be with him. That's what he said, right? Let it be with thy chaciyd one. So we have to examine. You have to examine. Again, it doesn't say for Kadesh one here. When it said be with thy holy, it's chaciyd. So we know that's the support of those who do the work. Anybody know what Massa is? When he said proved, whom thou did prove at Makkah or Massa, does anybody know what that is and what that means? And Massa and Meribah, for full disclosure, means the exact same thing. Well, it's
Doesn't mean like a cracker or something?
no. It's cool, because I mean that's that location may not stick out in your head. Come over here to Exodus 17. Massa means temptation. Massa means temptation. Massa, it means temptation. I know we talked about Meribah not too long ago, so I can understand if we don't remember that. And so it's a little bit more talking about Meribah. So yeah. We're going to go all the way out and look at that. So, Exodus chapter 17, verse 1. All the congregation of the children of Yasharal journeyed from the wilderness of Sin after their journeys according to the commandment of Yahuwah, and pitched in Rephidim, and there was no water for the people to drink. Wherefore the people did chide with Moses, and said, Give us water that we may drink. And Moses said unto them, Why chide ye with me? Wherefore do you tempt Yahuwah? The people thirsted there for water, and the people murmured against Moses, and said, Wherefore is this, that thou hast brought us out of Mizraim to kill us, and our children and our cattle with thirst? And Moses cried unto Yahuwah, saying, What shall I do unto this people? They be almost ready to stone me. Yahuwah said unto Moses, Go on before the people, and take with thee of the elders of Yasharal, and thy rod, wherewith thou smote the river, and take in thy hand, and go. And behold, I will stand before thee upon the rock in Horeb, and thou shalt smite the rock, and there shall come water out of it, that the people may drink. And Moses did so in the sight of the elders of Yasharal, and he called the name of the place Massa and Meribah, because of the chiding of the children of Yasharal, and because they tempted Yahuwah, saying, Is Yahuwah among us or not? So he said to let that light of perfection, or the covenant of the Ruach and the works of the Ruach, or the teaching of the Father, which with the Urim, say, let that be with the one who he supports, who's doing the work. Let that be with him. Because you did whom thou. And notice that he said that Levi, now remember, Levi is the one that you're dealing with Moses, who got proved at Massa, and whom thou didst strive at the waters of Meribah. He said, let that be with thy chaciyd one. So that means we have to look at this further on down the line. Because again, Meribah means strife and contention. Massa means temptation. Meribah being strife and contention, or contention. So I want you to think about that as we move to the next place that talks about this particular story. We're going to slide on down here to Psalms 81 and 5. Because notice that he said, let the light of perfection and the thoughts and the works and the Ruach of Elohim be with him who had been tried and overcame strife, contention, and temptation. This he ordained in Yosaf for a testimony. When he went out through the land of Mizraim, where I heard a language that I understood not, I removed his shoulder from the burden. His hands were delivered from the pots. Thou called in trouble, and I delivered thee, and I answered thee in a secret place of thunder. I proved thee at the waters of Meribah. Selah. Hear, O my people, and I will testify unto thee. O Yasharal, if thou wilt hearken unto me, there shall no strange God be in thee. Neither shalt thou worship any strange God. I am Yahuwah thy Elohim, which brought thee out of the land of Mizraim. Open thy mouth wide, and I will fill it. But my people would not hearken to my voice, and Yasharal would none of me. So I gave them up unto their own hearts' lusts, and they walked after their own counsels. See, why is that important? Because he said, let that Thummim and that Urim be with your chaciyd one. Let that be with that Kadesh priest, that whom you tried and proved in temptation and in strife and in contention. Which is taking us back that when you face tribulation, tribulation work patience. And patience bring forth experience, and experience hope, and hope make not ashamed. The trying of your faith, the diverse temptations. Count it all joy for the perfecting of your faith, and don't let nothing be wanting. See, we can sit back and look at, they tried Moses, whether it was with the manna. They tried Moses, whether it was with the water. They tried Moses when they spoke against him, meaning Aaron and Miriam. They tried Moses, whether it was with Korah. Shall we continue? Of all the various temptations in war, and we know that Moses slipped in one temptation, and that is in that same place of Meribah the second time, because he gave them water twice. He did it twice. Because you see, the first time he did what y'all told him. The second time he didn't. He said, oh, that my people had hearkened unto me, and Yasharal had walked in my way. That's why I say, Baruch is he that endured temptation, for when he is tried, he will receive a crown of life. If you can endure the test, then the lights of perfection can be with you. The same way they with Yahusha. Let's sit back and look at how he was proved in temptation and strife. Which way would we want to go with that? John chapter 3. We'll just take a quick glance. Well, some of this stuff, because of time's sake, I just said I don't want to read the whole story. And that's John chapter 8, actually. We'll just pull the story and you can take it down. This story, because it's pretty quick. We know it. We're not going to actually read all through it. Y'all know from John 8, verse 1 to verse 11, you have the woman who what? Got caught in adultery. That was a spot of temptation. They were tempting him to see what he was going to do. They wanted to see if he was going to condemn this woman or not. And he endured that temptation because he said he proved him. I tested him. I tried him. Let me see. Because remember, he proclaimed the name of Yahuwah. Merciful and good. Yahushua said, I didn't come to call the righteous to repentance, but sinners. So therefore, when he was tested and tried to show forth mercy, he exhibited that. And Yah proved him out that he was faithful. Let's look at another location. Matthew chapter 22. And Matthew 17 behind it. Matthew 22 and 18. Make that verse 15. Let's look at another place where Yahushua is proved and he's tried. Because we don't have to talk about the crucifixion. We already know that. That's a given. But we're going to look at the contention that he was proved with during the crucifixion, which you should already know. We want to look at the places where this man was actually tried. So when we go read this verse in Luke, it'll make a lot more sense. Then went the Pharisees and took counsel how they might entangle him in his talk. And they sent out unto him their disciples with the Herodians, saying, Master, we know that thou art true and teach the way of Elohim in truth. Neither care thou for any man, for thou regard not the person of men. Tell us therefore, what think thou? Is it lawful to give tribute unto Caesar or not? But Yahushua perceived their wickedness and said, Why tempt ye me, ye hypocrites? Show me the tribute money. And they said unto him, and they brought unto him a penny. And he saith unto them, Whose is this image and superscription? They say unto him, Caesar's. Then saith he unto them, Render therefore unto Caesar the thing which are Caesar's, and unto Elohim the things that are Elohim's. And when they had heard these words, they marveled, and they left him, and they went their way. See, these niggas was so wicked. These niggas was so wicked that they came at this man with this right here, trying to come at him about some money, trying to tempt this man to speak against Elohim and give credit and honor to a man. And he endured that temptation, and Yah proved him out to be faithful. Because you look what he said. He said, why tempt? In that same chapter, come over to Matthew 17, in that same chapter of Matthew chapter 22. 17 and 24. In that same chapter of Matthew 22, they came and sized him about the resurrection of the dead. He was tested and proved there and endured. And after this Matthew 17, we're going to look at Mark chapter 3. And we could look at the times where they tried him in temptation when he healed people and his response to them. This is why he said, let the lights of perfection, let the Thummim, the Urim and the Thummim be with my chaciyd one. Because I proved them at Massa and Meribah. So you have to realize that you're going to be proved when you're faced with temptation and strife and contention and tribulation and persecution. You're going to be proved. So he can let that Urim and Thummim abide with you. And when they came to Capernaum, they that received tribute money came to Peter and said, Doth not your master pay tribute? And he said, Yes. And he was coming to the house, and Yahushua prevented him, saying, What think thou, Simon? Of whom do the kings of the earth take custom or tribute? Of their own children, or of strangers? Peter saith unto him, Of strangers. Yahushua saith unto him, Then are the children free. Notwithstanding, lest we should offend them, go thou to the sea and cast a hook, and take up the fish that first come up. And when thou hast opened his mouth, thou shalt find a piece of money. Take and give unto them for me and thee. He could have easily bucked. He was faced with a little temptation here. He could have easily bucked. Even what we were looking at in Matthew 22 with them coming with the coin, that was contention because they were striving with him. They were striving with him. They were seeking to contend with this man on every corner. And Luke had said they enticed him to speak more words so they could catch him in his talk. This is why sometimes the book of Proverbs tell you the wise man say a fool is known by his multitude of words. Sometimes, you know what, they trying to come at you and catch you up in your speech. Keep your mouth closed. Mark chapter 3 and verse 1. Mark chapter 3 and verse 1. And he entered again into the synagogue, and there was a man there which had a withered hand. They watched him whether he would heal him on the Shabbat day, that they might accuse him. He saith unto the man which had the withered hand, Stand forth. And he saith unto them, Is it lawful to do good on the Shabbat, or to do evil, to save a life, or to kill? But they held their shalom. And when he looked around about on them with anger, being grieved for the hardness of their hearts, he saith unto the man, Stretch forth thy hand. And he stretched it out, and his hand was restored as whole as the other. And Pharisees went forth straightway and took counsel with the Herodians against him, how they might destroy him. See, every corner of stuff that you see is this man being tempted and tested. And he sinned not. Because sometimes being tempted and tested ain't got necessarily nothing to do with some of the things that we look at Because that's the things that we always wrestling and dealing with. It's to make sure you don't defame your Elohim, to stand firm in the faith, to be able to shut the mouths of wicked men, to where you bring honor to Elohim and not to yourself. Luke chapter 22. Where's my verse at? Give me 1 second. I know it's over here. It's escaping my brain. Luke 22 and 28. I don't know why I was doing that, and I knew the verse. That's just retarded. He said, "You are they that which continued with me in my temptations. And as I appointed unto you a kingdom, as my Abba have appointed unto me, that you may eat and drink at my table in my kingdom, and sit on the thrones, judging the 12 tribes of Yasharal." That's why I say, Baruch is he that endured temptation. He gave Yahushua a crown of life, because he endured those temptations. Notice he told his apostles, you were those that continue with me in my temptations. Every time I was tested. We could spend a whole day just cycling through the Gospels and looking at how they tried and tested this man. But we're about to conclude this by looking at how they tested him at the last, and that he never folded. Come over here to verse 40, verse 39, same chapter. He came out and went as he was wont to the Mount of Olives, and his disciples also followed him. And when he was at the place, he said unto them, "Pray that you enter not into temptation." And that he was withdrawn from them a stone's cast, and he kneeled down and prayed, saying, "Abba, if thou be willing, remove this cup from me. But nevertheless, not my will, but thine be done." And there appeared unto him a Malachim from Shamahim, strengthening him. Because he had faith to be able for him to endure. Because he's about to come into the final temptation and the last bit of strife. But I read that verse 40 for y'all to know that you need to pray lest you enter into temptation. Especially if you know that you're not strong enough. Especially if you know you're not strong enough. Where we gonna go? Luke chapter 22, verse 63. We're gonna look at some of his striving and temptations and contention that he dealt with at the last. The men that held Yahushua mocked him and smote him. How many of y'all can take? That's a temptation right there for a man to slap the fire from you, and you ain't did nothing. And when they blindfolded him, they struck him on the face and asked him, saying, "Prophesy, who is it that smote thee?" And many other things blasphemy spake they against him. And as soon as it was day, the elders of the people and chief priests and scribes came together and led him into their council, saying, "Art thou the Mashiach? Tell us." He said unto them, "If I tell you, you will not believe." That's my type of man right there. If I tell you, you ain't gonna believe me anyway, so why you keep asking? See, I love that. I respect that response. That's my type of response. If I tell you, you ain't gonna believe me anyway. So, nigga, why is you asking me? And if I also ask of you, you will not answer me, nor let me go. Hereafter shall the Son of Man sit on the right hand of the power of Elohim. Then said they all, "Art thou the Son of Elohim?" And he said unto them, "Ye say that I am." And they said, "We need not any further witnesses, for we ourselves have heard of his own mouth." Not one time did he ever say that he was. He said, "You said that I am." Let's look at some more things of what they did to him, or how they tried him. Let's drop down here. We're in verse chapter 23. Oh, it doesn't have that part in there for us. We got to go to Matthew for that part. For those, no, we don't. My apologies. Verse 34. Then said Yahushua, "Abba, forgive them, for they know not what they do." And they parted his raiment and cast lots. And the people stood beholding, and the rulers also with them derided him, saying, "He saved others. Let him save himself, if he be Mashiach, the chosen of Elohim." And the soldiers also mocked him, coming to him and offering him vinegar, saying, "If thou be the Malach of the Yahudim, save thyself." So when we look at this here, he's steadily getting tempted. This is why the words that Peter spoke in 1 Peter chapter 2, when he was threatened, he he threatened not. When he was reviled, he reviled not, but committed himself to him who judges righteously. See, we just talked about Mishpat last week. He committed himself to him who judges righteously, who execute judgment because the wrong judgment proceeded. He committed his trust to him in the midst of those temptations, in the midst of that strife and contention. They also slapped that man in John 18. They spit on this man. They hit this man upside the head with a reed. Mocked him continually. And he endured that temptation. That's why he's saying, let that chaciyd one have the Urim and the Thummim. The Urim and the Thummim is in the high priest's breastplate of judgment. Let that be with Yahushua. See, that goes to what we talked about Wednesday. Let that be with Yahushua. Because he had the high priest blessed plate on and garment on and ephod on and mitre on and robe on, and he put it off to come make the offering. And when he was resurrected from the dead, he put it back on to forever make intercession on your behalf, because your sins have been atoned for. So when he returns the second time without sin unto judgment, because he's going to put that high priest garment off and put his warrior garments on, and therefore stain all his raiment. So I want you to understand and see that there. Come back to Deuteronomy 33. That the purpose and knowing that if you want to have the Urim, the light of perfection upon you, you would need to be able to endure. He tested him, he proved him, and he endured. He endured. When we look at that verse 11, when he say bless his substance and accept the work of his hands, come over here to Ephesians 2 so you can see who he's going to accept, who is the work of his hands. Make sure I'm in the right place. I don't think I'm in the right place. I hope that all of y'all are seeking to be his workmanship, the work of his hands. I was in the right place. Ephesians chapter 2 and verse 7. That in ages to come he might show the exceeding riches of his kind and his kindness towards us through Yahushua HaMashiach. For by Khan are you saved through faith, and that is not of yourselves. It is a gift of Elohim, not of works, lest any man should boast. For we are his workmanship, created in Yahushua HaMashiach unto good works, which takes us back to the Urim and the Thummim, because the works was contained in both of those, which Elohim have before ordained that we should walk in them. So you are his creation. He said to bless and accept the work of his hands. We already read that in Romans 10. Yahuwah is going to accept all those who are conformed into the image of Yahushua. But when it says in that verse 11 about smiting through the loins of them that rise against him and of them that hate him, that they rise not again, that's talking about the beast and that false prophet and those armies that will gather up to make war with the Lamb, and he definitely will smite through them, and they will not rise again, because they will be sacrifices and they will be destroyed. Yahuwah will deal with verses 9 and 10 on the morrow, but because that's a whole nother thing. Just basically that, the incense upon the altar, is the sacrifice of Yahushua, but I really want to deal with that in depth a little bit more. Definitely don't want to start that because it's late in the evening. But I done reference to James over and over again, and we're just going to read it on our way out. James 1 and 12. Because of the framework of some of the stuff that we were looking at this evening was the ability to endure temptation. And because if you can endure temptation and if you can endure tribulation, and all of these things still go back to that Proverbs 24 and 10. If you faint in the day of adversity, your strength is small. And we looked at Yahushua in the day of his adversity, and he did not faint. He did not decline. He did not forsake, because tribulation worketh patience, and patience experience, and experience hope, and hope make not ashamed. Yahushua, you got to understand something, right? Yahushua sung a hymn with joy in his heart before he was getting ready to be killed, because he counted it joy for all the diverse temptations that he was suffered, placed before him, so that he could learn patience, and that patience could have his perfect work, so that he would not be lacking and wanting anything from Elohim. And he did not. And if we can take on that same mind and that same spirit and those same thoughts, we can receive a fullness of a reward that Elohim has reserved in Shamahim unto all of his children for his righteousness' sake, that he may be esteemed and that your soul may be delivered. Baruch is the man that endured temptation, for when he is tried, he shall receive the crown of life which Yahuwah hath promised to them that love him. Let no man say when he is tempted, I am tempted of Elohim. For Elohim cannot be tempted with evil, neither tempt he any man. But every man is tempted when he is drawn away of his own lust and enticed. That when lust hath conceived, it bring forth sin. And sin, when it is finished, bring forth death. Do not err, my beloved brethren. And you notice when he say he's drawn away and enticed by his own lust. See, Yahushua's desire was always to his Father's will. So that's why he wasn't drawn away and fainted. Remember, because the word faint in that word means to forsaken or to leave. He never turned his back on Yahuwah in any temptation or any tribulation that he faced. So when you find yourself getting drawn away by temptation or tribulation, you need to have it in your mind that this is literally you forsaking and abandoning Yahuwah. Yahuwah said, I will never leave thee and forsake thee. They say, but if you forsake him, he will forsake you. Yahuwah has never abandoned and forsaken any man who sought his face in the midst of tribulation. He ain't did it then, he ain't did it, and he ain't doing it now. But if you turn your back on him, he will surely turn his back on you. Because he said, Yahuwah has not given us the spirit of fear, the ruach of fear. And perfect love cast out fear, because fear hath torment. Anyone who hath fear is not made perfect in love. Your love in Elohim is not perfect if you move forth with fear, because that means you're not trusting him. Remember this here as we conclude. He said, let that Urim and that Thummim be with thy chaciyd one whom thou proved at Massa, and thou did prove at Meribah. Let me read it right, because I know he didn't say to prove at the second part on the Meribah. So let me correct myself. Said whom thou did strive at the waters of Meribah. We looked at the end of Luke that he strived with him. He strived with him. Stay strong in Yahushua, and you'll receive your crown. But hallelujah for Yahushua, the word. We will start.